Hello there. On the concept of good and evil, I have a discovery, a little discovery, a tiny bit of discovery, and I would like to share with you. Thank you for joining me on this one. So, when we talk about the acts of good and the acts of evil, they are not strange concepts to us. We know them and we are familiar with them. But one thing that we are not particularly conversant with is the reward structure of good and evil. Is how they multiply, is how they come back to us. The pattern at which they come back to us and the system in which they come back to us. And that's just the little thing I would like to share with you, like I said before. Now, our world today and our society today is an accumulation of good and evil, regardless of the size of it. The tiny bit of good, the tiny bit of evil are what that are put together that becomes the world we have today and the society we have today, the experiences that we have today. Same thing goes for the good of today and the evil of today. They are going to merge up to become the experience, bitter good experience of tomorrow. Now, I like to do a comparison between an act of good and a drop of water. That a little act of good is like a drop of water, and a little act of evil is like a drop of water that makes up an ocean. That when a good is performed today, there's a reward structure for it that is not implemented instantly. There is a reward system for evil that is not implemented instantly. So you can't say that someone who does an evil act has escaped the reward for it. I mean, it may look like it. Our world is filled with people who go about their daily lives, feasting off the pain of others and all of that. And it does not look like the universe is rewarding them for what they are doing, or the nature is the world is falling down on their heads. In fact, some of them are quite prospering, more than the seemingly good people. Now, what is the structure that I have found out? This structure kind of gives me the confidence that nobody does anything and does not get the reward in return. We call it karma, but I don't want to use the word karma. I want to be more, be more logical about it. Now, this is it. That when something, the good and evil, they increase at a compound rate. And what does it mean for something to increase at a compound rate? That when something increases at a compound rate, it means that the growth is accelerated by the accumulation of previous increases. Growth is accelerated by an accumulation of previous increases. That the good that is performed today is not irrelevant, is not a standalone event that has no impact. The evil that is done today is not an outside event that has no impact. Now, what happens is this: it increases. The more you do good, the more it's stored in that. I like to call it a storage box, like the drop of water comparison. It drops, it does not dry off. It drops, it does not dry off. When it drops, you wait for the next drop, you wait for the next one, and the next one, and the next one after that, until it makes a cup of water, a glass of water, until it transcends a glass of water and becomes a jug of water, and becomes a bowl of water, and becomes a tank of water, and becomes an ocean. So when it drops, it waits for the next one. So the evil you do today, the good you do today, stays somewhere and waits for the next good you will perform, or the next good you will do, or the next good act that you will carry out. And then there is an increase that happens. There is an increase that happens. There is an increase that happens. So it keeps increasing in that format. All right? It keeps increasing in that format. Now, the more the increase that happens, the more you are likely to, see the reward take place. or should I say, the earlier it increases, the earlier the possibility of seeing the reward take place in your life or in your experience. Like the comparison with a drop of water, the more drop you get by the second, the more drop you get by the minute, the chances are excellent. The chances are very high that you're gonna get a cup of water in due time, in a very short while, sooner than you even plan for it. So when an act of good is done today, it needs a follow-up event, which is another act of good, to make up, to increase the number, to pile it up to a point where it is massive enough to be to gain, to attract reward. All right. So even if the last time you did a good thing or you performed a good act to someone was a year ago, he waits for till the next year. He waits for the next 365 days for you to do another one. Well, it has nothing to lose because it's never gonna dry up. The universe is never going to forget the time you helped someone. It's never gonna forget the time you came through for someone. It's never gonna forget the time you lent a helping hand to someone. Alright? It's never gonna forget, even if you are no longer that person who shows mercy to people, even if you are no longer that person who is kind-hearted like you used to be. It's never going to forget. The reward is still coming. It should definitely come. But what happens is this: it needs to pile up to a point where by the time it comes, by the time the reward will come, the growth is going to be accelerated by the accumulation that has happened. By the accumulation that has happened. So you don't see people being rewarded for their good just based on that particular good alone. It has to be a piling up. It has to be an accumulation that has happened over time that has led to that point. So there is a compound rate increase. There is a compound rate growth. There is a compound rate, acceleration that takes place when the accumulation of good has reached a certain height. When the accumulation of evil has reached a certain height, there is a compound rate of reward that takes place. There is a common proverb that says every day is for the thief and one day is for the owner. So it happens that the thief will keep piling his own acts of evil, right? And then a time will come when the reward will come. A time will come when the reward will take place. And the owner is going to be the one who is going to enjoy the beautiful feeling of getting a revenge on the thief. The owner is going to be the one who is going to, at long last, have the experience of, the privilege of, revenging and taking revenge on the thief. All right. So when a good act is performed, when an evil act is performed, it is not irrelevant. It is not outside the box. It is not useless. It is not needless. You don't do good to someone and end up saying, "Now you regret doing it," or "You regretted doing it because what was the point?" The person could not even. It is not up to the person to reward you. The reward systems don't come from the people you extend your goodness to, your good acts to, your kind acts to. Your reward usually will not come from them directly. It comes from there's a law that the universe plays by, and it cannot be denied, it cannot be ignored, it cannot be stopped because that is how you feel, or that is what you feel, because the person you just did something for, it no longer remembers you, and maybe the person has gotten to certain heights and has due to your own contribution, to your own impact in their lives, and the person has completely forgotten you, and you think, so what's the point of doing good after all? Let me just revert to the other lifestyle, or the other way of doing things. No, it's not supposed to be done that way, because the system of reward, or the reward system, does not work the way we want it to work sometimes. All right. The storage box. Yeah. Let me just permit me to use the word storage box where good is stored. I told you it does not dry up. It does not go anywhere. It does not fade off. It does not expire. It's there. Even if the last time you did it was 15 years ago, it's still there, waiting for company, waiting for an addition, waiting for an increase to a point where reward will be substantiated. Now, that storage box is what I like to call a strategic point. A strategic point. Now, good acts and evil acts, they will now become captures from these strategic parts or these strategic points later on in the future. That in a month's time, you will be living a victorious life. You'll be living a very, very beautiful life because of the good you once did. Because of the evil you once did, you'll be living an otherwise life, a contrary life to that. So there are strategic points where you draw future experiences from. You help someone today, you have established a strategic point. You deny someone of an opportunity tomorrow, you have established a strategic point. That when the time comes, there will be something to draw from when the time for reward comes. When the moment of reward arrives, there will be enough to have that would have been generated, and that strategic point to give you the kind of experience that is befitting what you have been accumulating over time. I don't know if I'm able to do justice to this explanation, but this is why you need to understand that little decisions in life, they are of finite importance. That little decisions, every little decisions are of finite importance. That you cannot underestimate the power, the intensity and the gravity of little acts of good and little acts of evil, because you just think time will pass and people will forget. Time will pass and you will forget, or it will just go away. I'm here to tell you that it's not really going away. The good you do today is going nowhere. The evil you do today, my friend, is going nowhere. It's there. It's stored. It's there, waiting for accumulation, waiting for additions that are going to pile them up to a point where a reward will become inevitable. So, which would you rather choose? Our futures will be determined by what we have been accumulating. That is why I said that today, our world today, your experience today, your situations today, is just an accumulation of previous past acts of good and previous acts of evil. So you choose, consequences are not chosen. Nobody chooses consequences. What we choose are decisions and choices. Decisions and choices are what will determine what consequences will look like. Decisions and choices are what will eventually, set the tone for consequences in the future. So you can already know what consequences await you in the future by the things that you do today, by the involvement that you get yourself involved in today. So when you focus on something, good, evil, call it whatever, there is an expectation to come. There is an event to come. There is a reward to it, and it's never going to not happen. I mean, it's not inevitable, and it's surely to happen. So that is what I've come to find out about good and evil acts. Thank you for joining me. Now, I want to believe there will be questions, because I don't quite feel like this will be enough. This is just barely 15 minutes. This should be a 1 hour conversation, but I don't have the luxury of time. But if you do have questions, reach out to me. We'll discuss about it, we'll talk about it, and I'm here to talk about it. Thank you once again for joining me on this